bringing sports, entertainment, and technology podcasts together. This is SPNT.
Irish Impact is brought to you by Stitcher Smart Radio. Download the Stitcher Smart Radio app today at stitcher.com/SPNT. What's happening, Irish fans? It's Irish Impact. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish, Kevin. 3-0 for the first time in 10 years. Can you believe that?
You know, I actually couldn't. I predicted them to fall last week to State on the road, and I was super impressed with the way they came out playing. That defense, Nick, boom.
That was one of the I can't even begin to describe the effort I saw on the defensive side of football. They didn't even have to blitz. They were getting pressure with their front four, sometimes their front three, and it was awesome.
It was phenomenal the way they were able to get pressure up front. Bell did not have an impact. Michigan State between the 20s all day, barely getting into Notre Dame territory. I mean, it was just all-around great performance defensively to get that 20-3 victory on the road versus a top 10 opponent.
It was just one of those performances that at least I know where I don't, like I said, I don't even know what to say. It was that good. Haven't seen it in a long time out of a Notre Dame defense. But we're glad you could join us here on episode 5. It's the Teo version of the Irish Impact podcast. The number 5. I guess you could say the Golson version too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to you got a Cinco stud on each side of the ball, the quarterback, and Teo. What a monster game last week against State. 12 solo tackles, especially with all that personal adversity.
We'll touch on that here because I know that the fans have a lot planned this weekend at South Bend. It's Michigan week, which is always a fun week for Notre Dame fans. We'll look back this week at the Spartans game. We'll also we'll talk about this. The news dropped literally the day after we recorded this podcast. The Irish moving all of their other sports to the ACC conference. They're a quasi ACC member in football. They're still independent, but let's face it,
we'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into that, and of course, we'll look ahead to Michigan week. I have a feeling we'll be saying the word shoelace a lot.
Yeah, unfortunately, that name comes up a lot. Michigan has gotten the best of the Irish the last 3 seasons, all in very close ball games, and we'll talk about the one coming up this week in South Bend a little later in the show.
Absolutely. If you want to email us, the email is irishimpact@spnt.tv. You can also follow us on Twitter. We are at Irish Impact. I've been live tweeting during the games, and it's been a lot of fun getting to meet some Irish fans from across the country, and I'm looking forward to live tweeting as well this weekend. It should be a lot of fun. So let's take a look back at Michigan State, Kev. Like we mentioned before, the defense was just fantastic. There was only one time in the second half that Michigan State managed to get into Notre Dame territory, and it was their 48-yard line. Yeah. It was just an amazing job by Bob Diaco, especially when you consider where they're at in the secondary. It's been a patchwork lineup, and they lost another guy for the year. So, like I said, I'm speechless. I'm so excited. I like where this defense is going. I'm really excited to see what they're going to do this weekend.
Yeah, you're watching the game on ABC last Saturday. Michigan State never comfortable. Maxwell, their quarterback, 23 of 45, just 187 in the air. Bell, the big threat everyone was talking about coming into the ball game, carried it just 19 times, 77 yards on the ground. Notre Dame really shut them down, and they just weren't able to produce any offense, and Notre Dame kept stopping them, kept getting the ball back, and took advantage of the opportunities. One thing that was good to talk about for the Irish, offensively, they semi-struggled, but they were able to put the 20 points up, mainly because their defense kept setting them up with great field position. But there were some sparks there offensively from Golson. He missed a couple balls early on, looking for Brown on a deep one, overthrew him, but then he was able to connect with Goodman for that first touchdown on a great catch by Goodman, one-handed with the left hand in the end zone. And, we saw Golson also run for a score again this week, so he's slowly maturing into the role. His numbers aren't as impressive just on paper when he's 14 for 32 in the air, $178, but he also ran for a score, 3 carries, 7 yards on the ground. And I think he's slowly maturing, and if this defense can keep up playing the way it is, the offense is only going to be able to improve around it.
The one thing we talked about early in the season, Kevin, and it was a huge storyline last year, was the turnovers. And here we are again, another game, no turnovers. They played well. They didn't do anything too explosive offensively, but they had some good plays, some good runs, especially the fake I don't know what you want to call that play, where they look like they're going to sweep and then they hand it off and cut back. I mean, they almost had a chance to break that twice. It was good to see Sierra Wood in there, and he did a lot of good things.
Yeah, I mean, he carried about just 10 times, 56 yards, but he's, first game back. He's slowly getting back up to game speed. A lot of potential coming in this week. According to T-Bone in the chat room, he says he could have a monster week here against Michigan, and that's quite possible. Notre Dame has been able to score against the Blue. We'll get into that a little bit later, but, first game back, 56 yards on the ground, but really 3 guys splitting the carries back there. Atkinson, 5 for 43, and Riddick with 12 for 30. So, if that was one workhorse back, that's a pretty good ball game, but with 3 different guys back there, it's good distribution, and, pretty decent performance from each one.
Absolutely, and you and I talked about this off the air, but I strongly believe the player of the game. Now, we know that Manti Te'o, 12 tackles, huge game, especially when you consider the week that he had. But I'm a little partial to the special teams. I really think Ben Turk and his punting in that game was the difference. He pinned Michigan State back. The field position battle clearly was won by Notre Dame. He had a huge game. He had one bad punt, but it was still deep enough in Michigan State territory that they couldn't do anything with it.
Yeah, definitely a great performance. Just like you said, field position is a major role, especially with the way Notre Dame, we were kind of questioning what they'd be able to do defensively here. They obviously stepped up, and then the special teams did as well. Brinza coming through with a couple field goals. I mean, they looked good. The one thing that wasn't stellar was the offense, but they didn't have to be when the defense only gave up 3 points. And State, it's the lowest amount of points they've given up in a home game since 1991, when they also scored 3 points in a loss to Central Michigan. So to go up there against a top 10 team, prime time, and hold them to 3 points in their house, it's just pretty impressive.
Yeah, again, like I said, I'm partial to kickers and punters. I'm a former kicker and punter myself, and I've been waiting for Turk to really take off. He's got that punting bloodline, and now here he's finally getting it together. He's had a great first 3 games. Like I said just a minute ago, he changed the field position battle for Notre Dame, and you're right. As long as Everett Golson's just handing the ball off and making smart throws and not giving it away, they're going to be in the game, especially with the way this defense is playing. Do you remember Trent Dilfer, 2000, Baltimore Ravens? Enough said.
And with Golson, again, 14 for 32, but the distribution was there. He had a bunch of guys getting some receptions, one missing, though.
That's a big I can't believe that.
Yeah, I was surprised, too, but, Toma stepped up. He had 5 catches, 58. Jones, of course. Goodman had the 1 catch, really made it count in the end zone, but it was surprising Eifert did not get a reception in the ballgame.
And to be honest, Kev, I can't even think of a time where I remember him even being thrown at.
Yeah, off the top of my head.
It's not like he dropped the ball. I honestly don't remember that they had a chance to even hit him.
It was just surprising because he had a decent streak going for consecutive games with
But
reception.
if I'm Mark D'Antonio, too, he's their biggest threat offensively. Would you not agree?
Oh, going into this ball game, that's what we were talking about.
You got to shut him down. So
he took focus away. The other guys were able to get open. Golson made the throws that mattered. Threw a touchdown pass, ran for another. So I'm really liking that mobility side, too, as he's able to scramble around. That's also bought him some time when there was pressure coming in up front.
Right. Yeah, especially when you think – I remember the run for the touchdown was pretty remarkable, too. The fact that he was able to get to the pylon, I don't know if Hendricks or we know Rees wouldn't have been able to get to the pylon.
No.
Hendricks maybe because he can run, but he's not nearly as quick as Golson. So I don't know. I like the mobility factor, too. And 2 weeks in a row, 2 shockers for us. We didn't see Tommy Rees coming in closing the game versus Purdue. We certainly didn't see a 20-3 domination of Michigan State in East Lansing.
Yeah, definitely. We really thought Purdue would be a Notre Dame, kind of coast, get a victory by a couple of scores, and we thought State would be the kind of close game that Purdue turned into. It goes away this way that Notre Dame dominates this one from start to finish, and I'll take them both. 2 more wins, 3-0 for the first time since Tyrone Willingham's first season in 2002.
I know this is a Notre Dame podcast, but we could talk about Michigan State a little bit since we did just kick their butt. Mm-hmm. Do you think now that we have kind of set the blueprint? They hadn't given up a touchdown all year offensively against an opponent. They only managed 3 points. You shut down Bell, you shut down Michigan State. But we kind of knew that going in, though, didn't we?
Yeah, well, you knew they really relied on the running game, and Bell had been the guy everyone talked about with them. Maxwell had some questions. And one thing they did not want to see was have him have to throw it nearly 50 times, and Notre Dame forced him to do that, and unsuccessfully so. The defense like we talk about, steps up big, and if they can play that well, and the offense, as you said, just doesn't make the mistakes, gets the ball distributed or back around to the receivers, a lot of great possession guys in Jones and Roma, Goodman too, when he's out there, and then the three-headed monster running back. I mean, Notre Dame's got the things there. Now Brinza coming in, being accurate, kicking field goals. I mean, this is a team that looks pretty good right now.
Speaking of looking good, ranked 11th in the AP.
Quite a jump.
15th in the coaches poll when you consider they were unranked to begin the year. That's a huge jump.
Well, I mean, just going up from 20th to 11th in the one poll with the win over State. 9 spots.
We'll talk about the rankings here in just a minute. But before we wrap up on Sparty and Irish football, our friend Jared in the chat room says, starts with the D-line, Nick. We got to give huge props to the defensive line. They were fantastic. Nix, Lewis Moore, Sheldon Day had a good game.
Don't forget Tuitt.
Tuitt had a huge game. I mean, they were in the backfield almost every time Maxwell dropped back to pass. You know?
Yeah, he's never comfortable in the pocket.
He was never comfortable. He got hit a ton, which is something that hadn't happened to him all year. And I want to mention this too, because I was kind of surprised at how surprised Kirk Herbstreit was during the broadcast. Now, we know Herbstreit has been down on Notre Dame for a decade, maybe even more. But he always calls them overrated. But even he himself during the broadcast kept saying, I am impressed with their speed and their physicality up front. And that's something we haven't heard in a really long time.
Well, that's one thing that's been lacking in the last decade or so. Notre Dame, when they play faster opponents, have gotten burnt. And, you know, when they played a USC team, has dominated them in years past. And Big Ten teams have taken it to them with speed. But now you see this Notre Dame team that's got some fast guys. I mean, think back to that Navy game when Tuitt housed a 77-yard fumble recovery. He's up there now with 5 sacks already in 3 games. I mean, you got these guys that are getting in there quick, and they have the speed, and that's something that you need now in college football, and it's really great to see it in the blue and gold.
Absolutely. And Brent Musburger during the telecast, he talked about his meeting with Brian Kelly and how Brian Kelly told them that he knew he was going to have to win at Notre Dame with a strong defense. He came from an offensive, high-powered team at Cincinnati, which in the Big East, defense is not important.
You could try to outscore everybody.
Exactly, and that's what they did. And same thing in the MAC at Central Michigan. He did the same thing. Now he realizes that defense is where you win. And look at the SEC. The teams that have won the championship over the last, how many years in a row has it been? 5 or 6? Yeah. What do they have? What are the common threads?
It's always low-scoring defensive games.
It's defense, quick, physical defenses, and that's what he's building.
And that's exactly what you need. And like we said, really great to see it in South Bend so far, and hopefully it keeps going.
One of those guys on the defense that has been a mainstay over the last 4 years, the one and only Manti Te'o, had a rough week last week, losing his grandma and his girlfriend within 48 hours.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
very, very rough.
To come out and play the way that he did. First of all, I didn't know about the issues until the game, and then when I heard about it and then saw what he was doing on the field, it was just remarkable.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Very inspiring performance, 12 solo tackles, and really I think inspired his defensive teammates around him. I mean, to come in that game with all that on your shoulders, I mean, playing football helped him get it off his mind, and he played inspired, and I think he played, in dedication to the lost loved ones, and it really showed, and it was one of the best games I've ever seen him play.
Yeah, it was like I said, he was all over the field. He doesn't miss tackles.
Broke up a few passes.
Yeah, exactly. They kept calling it an interception during the game, but it was really a lateral. So is that considered an interception or is it considered a fumble? I think
it's a fumble.
That's what I thought too. One cool thing though that the students are doing this weekend and the entire Notre Dame community is doing is they're selling Lays to support Manti and everything everything that's going on in his life this weekend. It pretty remarkable to think that the Notre Dame community can step up like this, and I'm interested to see how it's going to look on television.
Yeah, it'll be pretty cool. I think they're going to see the stadium at a night game, and they're going to all have the Lays for Manti Te'o in the stands. I know I've just following the Twitter feed, and everyone in South Bend's trying to get a hold of these things. They're buying them online.
I want one.
Yeah, they're buying them online. They're buying them everywhere, and green ones. There's going to be all sorts of colors. It's going to be cool. Monte from Hawaii. and I think it's going to be nice for the senior to get this kind of tribute at home.
Absolutely. If anybody has one or knows where I can get one, let me know. I want to wear it during the show. That would look cool. I don't know.
I think it's going to be cool.
Yeah, I'm wearing my student T-shirt from 2 years ago. I didn't get one this year.
Oh, I got one this year, actually.
Is it nice?
Oh, yeah, I got a brother that works over at Notre Dame. He hooked me up with one, so,
nice.
yeah.
I always order mine and have it shipped. I don't know. I bought them for like 3 years in a row, and I just said, nah, I can't do it this year. That might change, though. I might get one.
They keep up this, you're going to have to.
That's true. You're right. So, yeah, that's. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the Michigan State game, so email us irishimpact@spnt.tv and hit us up on the Twitter at Irish Impact. All right, let's do some shout-outs.
Shout-outs.
Kev, who you got this week?
Just a shout-out this week comes from one of our Twitter followers, Kevin. I'm not sure his last name. He goes by @TheTree on Twitter. He started following us, listens to the program, a big Notre Dame fan, and he gets the shout-out this week, @TheTree, Kevin on Twitter.
Awesome. Give him a follow. Good dude. All right, I've got a couple shout-outs, so bear with me.
Sure.
My co-host of Thursday Tech Talk, Nick Wallace, is a big Notre Dame fan. I'm giving him a shout-out. You can follow him on Twitter @BlackNeuron. I'll get another friend of mine @Luke Konecki. He's a huge Notre Dame fan, a former coworker of mine, and a friend also, Michael Hogue. These three guys, we took our very first road trip to Notre Dame. Those are the three guys I went with to our first Notre Dame game. So those are my shout-outs. I should have.
What was the game?
Believe it or not, it's the only game I've ever been to. It was Charlie Weiss's last home game, UConn. They lost in overtime.
Wow.
It was also Jimmy Clausen's last home game.
Cheeseburger Charlie.
That's right. And Golden Tate's last home game. It was a crazy game.
T-Bone in the chat room says he was there too.
We were sitting right behind the student section in the very top row of the stadium. If I could get tickets there again, I would. The last row to me was the best seat because you could stand up, you can lean back, you didn't have to worry about getting in anybody's way. So, yeah.
Too bad they lost, huh?
It was, but, yes, I was upset that they lost. But at the same time, I was so, wrapped up in the experience and it being my first time there. And I got to see my high school coaches, All-American stuff, Bob Crable, the leading tackler in Notre Dame history. To see all that stuff there and see some of the other high school teachers I had with all their stuff up there was pretty neat. So that was fun.
Yeah, it's cool experience.
Yeah,
when you get in that place, yeah, definitely.
Went in the chapel during mass, so I got to see the team. I was pretty close to them.
Yeah, do the whole campus experience.
Yeah, we were there. We stood there as they walked out of mass for their walk to the stadium. So
yeah, that's something
cool
to see when they march to the stadium. Very, very cool.
So, yeah. So, I was so wrapped up in all that. And, by the way, Luke, if you're listening, I still want the pictures. God, that was 2 years ago, dude. Come on now. Not actually longer than that. I think 3 years ago. But those are our shout-outs this week. If you want to be shouted out here on Irish Impact, hit us up on Twitter @Irish Impact or send us your emails, irishimpact@spnt.tv. Don't forget, you can rate and review the show on iTunes. We'd love to hear your feedback. If you think our podcast is awesome, because I know Kevin and I do, leave us some good feedback in the iTunes, and we're also on the Zune Marketplace and Stitcher Smart Radio. Check us out there as well. It's a cool little app for your phone where you can listen to all of the SPNT shows there. Check us out at stitcher.com/SPNT. All right, so let's the news dropped last week, literally as we were getting done wrapping up this episode 4 of the podcast. It was actually the following day. The word leaked and it was confirmed that Notre Dame joining the Atlantic Coast Conference in all sports other than football. Now, in order to make this agreement, they had to guarantee 5 games against ACC opponents every year.
To be fair, Nick,
they already do that almost.
Well, they're not joining in hockey either.
Well, what conference are they joining in hockey?
Are they still in the same?
Well, the CCHA is no longer.
I didn't expect follow-ups on this
because
come now.
Michigan and Ohio State and Michigan State they joined the Big Ten hockey conference.
Well, let's not talk about hockey.
Well, I want to know now.
Well, I'll look it up.
That affects BG, our alma mater.
Well, good luck there. Well, one thing. With this ACC,
as this show comes crashing to a halt.
Well, with this ACC football thing, what I like, I mean, yes, they're going to play 5 games now. It starts in 2014, correct? So they have a so many month commitment to finish out with the Big East, but then they're going to play 5 teams, which I think is going to be okay. What's going to be in question, though, is Notre Dame's playing against Big Ten teams because they're going to stay committed to play USC, Stanford, and Navy. But their commitments against Michigan State, Purdue, and Michigan could become a thing of the past.
Well, don't they have a huge deal with Michigan?
I know, but they're taking 2 years off in 2018 and 2019.
But after
and
that,
if they
it's
make
like a 30-year contract.
But I know if they make this move, things could be in flux.
Yeah, because I think eventually they're going to have to join. We don't want that.
Well, this for now gives them some time because what I'm looking at here is 27-month notification period with the Big East for the rest of their sports. So for now, they'll still have the 2013-2014 season, which the schedule for next year is already set, and then a couple TBAs coming in 2014. But right now, I mean, so it's coming down the road where they're going to probably have to start slotting those ACC teams in definitely by 2015, and then who knows what happens with these games because, last week Michigan State, that's a classic game.
Right.
Michigan's a classic game. Purdue's an in-state rivalry.
Gotta have the
and
Purdue
these
game.
things could disappear. That's one of the only downers, but financially sound and everything else, this deal makes sense for Notre Dame.
Do you think, though, I mean, they already play – how many do they play this year? Is there 5?
From the ACC?
Yeah. They got BC.
Wake Forest. Pitt.
Well, it's technically not an ACC game, but it will be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm drawing a blank now. I mean, they don't play Duke or North Carolina this year, right?
No, not this year. They played them in the
But
past.
they have, right,
yes.
historically. So maybe, wow, yeah. Well, maybe the Stanford game. But no, they want that Stanford game for the recruiting.
Plus, yeah, that rivalry's kind of been built up over the past couple decades. And Navy is a commitment they're always said they'll play ever since Navy helped them keep this campus open back during the First World War and then again in the Second. So those games are something Notre Dame stays reliable with.
Right.
And then USC has been a classic rivalry, too, ever since they started
You do that
playing.
for the recruiting as well because you want to get to California. So, yeah, I guess that does really kind of put those games in limbo. 5 games against the ACC, which is good because you're going to get some good teams in there. You're going to get Florida State, well, if Miami comes back.
Mm-hmm.
But Virginia Tech's okay, although they just got their butt kicked by Pitt.
Yeah, but I think, though, I mean, they had to align somewhere sooner than later. And I think this also makes more sense for their other sports.
Right. Yeah, because the Big East is really kind of just gone by the wayside.
I was there and still about, basketball was still pretty big.
It's a huge move for basketball. It's a no-brainer for basketball. Big East is not what it was.
Mm-hmm.
When you lose Syracuse,
exactly,
who was a mainstay, I mean, come on. It's a no-brainer. I agree with it, but I don't like it from a football perspective, though.
But I think that was just the only way to get the other part of the athletic department in there. To get all the other sports committed into the conference, they had to kind of make this deal.
Right. 5 games, though. That's going to really that's going to make Jack Swarbrick work a little bit.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what they do because, again, with those other 3 in there, now you only have 4 workable ones to mix up on the schedule.
Well, T-Bone in the chat room says, I don't like it. So we'd like to hear your thoughts. So what are your thoughts on the move to the ACC for all the other sports outside of football? Hit us up at Irish Impact at spnt.tv. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm still a little up in the air because I think eventually they're going to have to join a conference, especially with this playoff.
It seems the way it's going with their, and now they're doing this, their 2 play-in games.
Yeah.
I think it's only going to expand. It's only going to become more necessary to be in a conference of some sort.
At what point does that screw you, though? Because what happens now if Notre Dame, let's say they're 10-2, right? Now you got your ACC automatic qualifier 10-2.
Mm-hmm.
You've kind of you're screwed because you're not in a conference.
Yeah, but see, they still have, I think, within the bylaws of how it all gets negotiated, Notre Dame still has their.
They said that keyword bylaws.
If they're still in the top 10 or top 8, then they can get bids to these kind of things.
Yikes! It's a mess.
The whole thing's a mess.
Well, speaking of a mess, the ending of last year's game against Michigan.
Well, last 3 years too.
So let's look ahead to this week's game. It's Michigan week, big week for us here on the podcast as well. Everybody in South Bend's amped up. It's a night game at South Bend.
That's what I think is really cool about it.
Yeah.
Game under the
Michigan
lights.
coming in, they've won 2 in a row since losing their first game to Alabama.
Yeah, they come
pretty
in
badly.
They come in at 2-1 victory over Air Force and Massachusetts.
Sorry, I'm laughing at the T-Bone at the chat room. This is Gary Gray. Turn your damn head around. That was funny. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. Speaking of chat room, though, if you want to tune in live with us, we record the show every Tuesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern at spnt.tv/live. Just a reminder, check us out. It's a lot of fun. We've got some good old-fashioned Irish football fans here. Irish football and T-Bone in the chat room. Come join us. Talk some Notre Dame. It's a lot of fun. So back to Michigan. Shoelace. Probably might want to stop him this week.
Well, it's one of those guys that I start thinking has been around forever, and how does he have another year of eligibility left? But, he's been their guy, and he's been, the thorn at Notre Dame's heel for the last couple years as they've been able to squeak out those victories. I think the last 3 years in a row, Michigan's won, and the go-ahead winning scores come in the last 30 seconds of the ballgame. And he's their guy. But right now, their numbers, they played Alabama and got smacked in the face, you said, a 41-14.
It was more than a smacking.
They got beat up. But, they come in ranked just 67th nationally passing the ball, 233 a game, 46 overall rushing with a $192. And, points for their top 30, they're 33rd with 36 a game, and they're giving up about 26 a game. And if you look at the Irish's numbers here, coming into the ball game, we're ranked pretty high because of these great defensive performances thus far. See if I can bring up the numbers here.
Well, I think a lot of it too. Okay, so last week we had to stop Bell.
Did it?
Now we have to stop Denard. He's their offense. Am I incorrect in stating that?
No, it's all.
I couldn't tell you one other player on their offense.
It all revolves around him because it's about will he run? So you got to stop pack the box, stop him on the ground. But that's what beat Notre Dame the last couple of years is then he threw over the top, and he put a lot of air into the passes, but they were able to get somehow completed, and that really cost them. And that's another concern coming into this one because of the secondary. But they played lights out last week, and they played decent against Purdue. So maybe these guys, even though we're plugging in guys, are good enough to step up to the challenge.
I sure hope so. The defensive line has been fantastic. Now, they haven't seen a mobile quarterback like they're going to see this weekend. But still, it's a formidable challenge. Denard, the last 3 years is just, man. I guess one of those years was Forcier, right?
Yeah.
Oh, a name from the past. And by the way,
Tate Forcier.
Irish football just stole your thunder. Did you see that line in the chat room?
Mm-mm.
Kill the head, the body will die. Greg Williams.
Wow.
I believe you said something similar to that off the air, did you not?
Yeah, I didn't think it would be prevalent to call out.
No, I think it was funny. You should say it.
Yeah, we'll let it go.
I'm not embarrassing you.
Oh, no.
Right.
I don't want him to get shut down. I don't want him to get broken.
No. I think a lot of Notre Dame fans want to see him get broken.
I'll tell you one thing, though. I think this is going to be the best front four Notre Dame puts up against him in this third attempt going against the Irish as we've seen them do last week. But that's going to be the ball game. Can they stop Michigan's offense? Because what we're going to kind of see an inverse now because Notre Dame's defense is playing well, but their offense, like I said, got it done last week, but there were a lot of missed opportunities. And now this week they're going to have to be able to play great D and put some points up because Michigan's shown they can score on the Irish the last couple seasons. So They need to make the stops, and then they need to match points if Michigan does score because Shoelace is going to be able to pick up some yardage, and I think it's going to be all about if Notre Dame can keep them between the 20s.
It's a big if.
Yeah, because it's all about stopping them like they did last week against State. They shut down the red zone. Michigan State, I'm not sure if they even got inside the red zone.
The red zone.
The closest they ever got was the Irish 26-yard line. And then you do that again this week.
Yeah. Oh, I sure hope they can. Now, Michigan faced a very difficult defense in the first week in Alabama. Have not played the level of competition the last 2 weeks. I believe they're coming off a game against UMass, who hasn't been in Division I football for very long. Or at least, I'm sorry, bowl subdivision, whatever.
Yeah,
it's the stupid
bowl
thing
subdivision. Yeah, they beat up on them a 63-13
Right.
win, but again, that's kind of irrelevant. They just scored a bunch of points. UMass, probably just getting adjusted into the D1.
Right.
I'm still going to just say D1.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but
I would say going into the game, now I don't know what kind of offensive line they have, But with his mobility back there, I don't know if it necessarily matters because,
He creates on his
right,
own.
He can get out of anything that comes his way. So it's going to be really important, very important for these ends to rush around the outside. They cannot break contain. They have to keep him in the pocket.
It's also, again, the secondary is going to have to keep the coverage tight because he's going to buy time to throw when he does throw the football and doesn't take off. And they're going to need to maintain their coverage downfield so someone doesn't slip open. Because, again, back in, was it last year, the year before? When was Notre Dame up 24-7? With
Last year.
Was that just last year?
Yeah.
With 2 minutes to go?
In the third quarter, yeah.
Yeah, and then things fell apart. So even if we see a score like that on Saturday, I'm not going to be comfortable until it says 0 on the clock.
Yeah. Well, the one thing, if I'm Brian Kelly, here's what I'm doing. And it's worked the last 3 weeks. I'm turning around and I'm hitting the ball off. Keep him off the field.
And I think that's exactly right. You have Sierra Wood, Theo Riddick, and Atkinson back there. Let those guys pound the ball. I think we got a better shot at running against Michigan than we, move the ball on the ground. Let Golson throw when he has to. But I think you just nailed it. Ground and pound and play a little bit of keep away.
Absolutely. Keep him off the field. That way he can't beat you. Mm-hmm. And, hey, you just, I don't know. I would just, I would run the ball as much as I can. Now, the key here is you have to be successful at running it. You can't, be 2nd and 10, 3rd and 8. You need to get it to 3rd and 2, 3rd and 4, short down in distances so that you have that dual threat of Golson running it and passing it.
Yeah,
you have that option.
And if you got these guys and if they're able to run for those gains you just suggested, then that's when Golson can strike over the top to Toma or hit Eifert or get Jones on the outside or look for Goodman on a deep ball. I mean, if they can get the yardage on the ground, it'll force Michigan to bring some guys up, and that's when we can see Golson's arm.
There was a play, I want to say early in the game. There was a play, a deep ball that Golson missed, and I believe it was a freshman receiver.
Was it Chris Brown?
I think so. I think he could have a really big game.
He missed him twice, I know, last week. A couple times where he had a step and the ball was just slightly overthrown.
I think he could have a big game.
But, yeah, he had the step.
Because you're right, he got by both times he got by those guys. And I don't think Michigan has the defense. I don't think they're where they were a year ago. I think they lost a lot. I still think that the Irish offense, I think there's going to be shots downfield because they're going to run the football. I mean, they're going to ground and pound. You're going to get those corners cheating up, those safeties cheating up to stop the run, and that's when you go poof, over the top. And I really firmly believe that.
Well, I think there's going to be points scored this Saturday.
Well, I mean, look at the last 3 games.
Yeah, I mean they're going to.
I didn't expect 3 points for Michigan State either, but yeah.
Well, I'm just talking. I think the Irish are going to be able to put points up. It's going to be a matter if they can stop Shoelace.
That is a big if.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would be watching that Alabama game tape a lot because they shut him down.
And they run the football very well down in Alabama. Our scouting report coming from Irish football says that Michigan's top cornerback is out this week. So that's good news as well.
That's something to exploit.
So let's do some predictions here. Do you think let's do score and I don't know, what other crazy – let's go bold. Give me a bold prediction. Give me a score and give me a bold prediction. Double shock.
Well, this week, I mean, I think the Irish are going to be able to win this one at home. That's my prediction right there. I think they're going to be able to run the football on Michigan, and I think they're going to be able to put up score and kind of pull away from this one. I think the defense will be able to step up enough that Notre Dame can win by a couple scores, and I got them going 31-17.
Wow. All right.
With the lays on for Mante.
I will say I'll go Notre Dame 35, Michigan 24. But here's my bold prediction. Notre Dame will have 5 or more turnovers on defense.
You think they've caused that much havoc?
I think they will cause 5 turnovers, whether it be interceptions, a combination of 5 turnovers, whether it's strip sack of Denard, interceptions, that sort of thing. I'll say 5 or more.
That's pretty bold. But I think it could happen. I mean, one thing with Robinson is they let him be the centerpiece of the entire offense. So if he makes mistakes, it's not like they're going to pull him.
Right. No, you're right. I mean, they don't have any other options.
If he struggles, he could look like Manning did last night. Maybe just keep struggling.
He almost pulled out a win.
Well, but the first quarter
Yeah.
was rough.
At least they don't have replacement refs in college football.
No,
Just yet.
just Big Ten officials. Could be worse.
Well, it won't be Big Ten officials this weekend. It'll probably be Big East or, I don't know, the Big 12. It's always when it.
Oh, you know, I liked it when I was a kid and we brought the MAC guys in.
Did they really do that?
They used to, yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think sometimes the road team just brings the guys.
The road team is.
I mean, yeah, like if you're playing a Big Ten team, they'll bring Big Ten
interesting.
guys.
There you go. Yeah, it won't be ACC refs. Oh man. Well, I guess it could be ACC refs, but yeah, we'll see how that plays out in the next couple weeks. So, I'd like to hear your bold predictions. Email us irishimpact@spnt.tv. Before we go, Notre Dame ranked 11th in the AP poll. We mentioned it briefly earlier.
Yeah. A little high?
I'm nervous.
Well, the one thing that's happening now is they have this home game under the lights, primetime, NBC salivating at this. You got two top 20 teams.
You know they're ecstatic.
Because Michigan comes in at 18, 7:30 primetime game, and now everyone's watching.
Everyone's watching. Everybody's writing about it. Gene Wojciechowski had a great article on ESPN.com today about
Coach Kelly said it's about keeping these guys grounded and focused because it's one game at a time with this schedule. And right when, don't get too jacked up about beating Sparty because there's Michigan right around the corner. And I really believe Coach Kelly's kind of his creed with this team. And so far, there's no reason not to believe it yet. And I think they'll be focused. I'm looking for a big one here at home.
I'm nervous.
I'm nervous.
I'm
nervous every week.
It reeks of typical Notre Dame letdown. And I hope not. I'm uncomfortable with. I'm not comfortable with the polls because I think they're a joke anyway.
Yeah.
USC was the second best team in the country. Arkansas was the 8th best team in the country preseason, and look where they're at. They lost to a Sun Belt team and then got smacked 52-0 at home.
Well, a couple weeks ago we talked about I don't really get into these polls. I don't think they're kind of irrelevant until you get a couple, at least. But
it's
week
good for
5.
recruiting, I guess. But
yeah,
at the same
and it's
time,
good for television because they put a number next to each name when they put the game on. But they beat a top 10 team in Michigan State, but they had only beaten Boise, who was ranked when they first played them. And now Notre Dame, I'm surprised they jumped from 19 to 11, but I think it's justified that they're right in that range. I would have put them maybe around 14 or 15, but I'm content. If you're going to jack them up to 11, I'll take it.
It just seems high, especially when you consider they were not ranked to start the year.
Oh, that's where they got a few votes, right? They always do
for first place.
No, 20 in the top 25 poll.
Oh yeah. I think they did.
Yeah, they're not in it. They're always at that bottom half because it's in the beginning of the year where this gets a couple votes. That's what this game's all about. Back it up now. You're bringing in Michigan. You just came off one of your best defensive performances, a first win over a top 10 team in a decade. 3-0 start in a decade, and now the spotlight's on. Here comes UM, one of your biggest rivalries of all time.
You got big-time recruits coming in. 4-star Torrey Hunter Jr. going to be in South Bend this weekend.
I wonder where's College Game Day going to be this weekend?
It has to be at Notre Dame.
You would think. This is it.
They normally go to either the Michigan State game or the Michigan game, usually. See, now I'm all intrigued. Now I have to look it up. I don't know.
Jared's saying FSU Clemson.
Okay, that was the one game, I guess. I think we can allow that one. That is going to be a good game, too. Oh, man, that's tough.
Well, but, one thing I'll say was, this is, you showed it against the doubters to get where they are now. Can they back it up 2 weeks or go back-to-back weeks with a kind of a performance like that?
I'm nervous. But I think they will win.
Well,
I have faith.
We know you'll all be watching.
Absolutely. I'll be live tweeting during the game, so make sure you follow us at Irish Impact. My wife loves when I live tweet because I have to watch the games. There's no taping them.
Oh, nice.
I'm smooth like that. I do that on purpose. That way I don't, I can get out of stuff. I have to watch the game, honey. Come on now. I have to. What are you going to be doing?
Busy week, but I will be. I love having these night games because you can get a lot of stuff done on a Saturday, and then focus in for the primetime game. I'll get together like I usually do with some family and friends, and we'll get around the TV and watch.
One of these days, we will have to watch this game together.
I agree.
We should do that.
Yeah, we'll pick one.
All right.
Maybe when the stress level tenses up a bit. When's the next easy game? 2014?
Pitt.
Maybe.
Oh, man, that was a good one. So, yeah, that's going to wrap up episode 5 of Irish Impact. It's been grand.
All right, guys. Win one for the Gipper.
Absolutely. Make sure you check us out at spnt.tv. For my co-host, Kevin Warnert, I'm Nick Sirling. We'll see you next time on Irish Impact. Irish Impact is an SPNT production. For more information about our other podcasts, log on to spnt.tv.